Recently, Furiosa, the new film in the Mad Max universe, was released. But how did it fare? Is it on par with Mad Max Fury Road? Or does the prequel fall short? Let's talk about that here. Today we'll review the good and the bad of Furiosa. As always, I'll warn you that this video contains spoilers. Ready? Let's go. My first good point is the protagonist. Furiosa was an incredible character introduced in the 2015 film. At the time, she was portrayed by Charlize Theron, who delivered a spectacular performance, portraying a character who was brutal and savage in her own way. Now in the prequel, we don't have Charlize Theron, but Anya Taylor-Joy, and I can say without any problem that her version lives up to the character. This version of Furiosa is more inexperienced and weaker, but as the movie progresses, we can see her maturing and becoming colder and more aggressive. We also see how she learns about mechanics and driving, skills that her adult version constantly utilizes. Her development feels quite well done, and of course they also respected that emotional part of the character. Let's remember that the Furiosa of 2015 wasn't a robot without feelings. At various moments, we saw her break down due to several situations. These emotions are shown in her younger version, and we can connect with her. The movie shows us the origin of Furiosa's motivations. At the beginning of the film, her mother entrusted her with the mission of returning to the Green Place and protecting life there. To accomplish this, she gives her a fruit seed as a symbol of the mission. This seed represents hope for a better future. And when the movie ends, we see Furiosa planting that seed in Dementis, making it clear how hope can arise from horrible circumstances. And later, she gives the fruit of that tree to Immortan Joe's wives, connecting with the 2015 film. Here it becomes clear to us where Furiosa's mission comes from, why it is so important for her to protect these women in the future, and why it hurts her so much to discover that her home was destroyed. In that sense, the motivations are explained quite well. In this same point, I want to mention the character of Jack, who contributes a lot to Furiosa as a fairly simple but functional romantic interest. He contributes a lot to her character development and shows us how the pain of his death shapes Furiosa's character for the future. My second good point is the action scenes. Everyone already knows that the Mad Max franchise is full of action, chases, explosions, and everything you can imagine in a world plagued by adrenaline. The 2015 film gave us several of the best action scenes seen in the last decade. The new prequel had to deliver in that regard, and I can say that it does so quite well. Let's be clear. The action doesn't reach the levels of Mad Max Fury Road, but the new film does have incredible scenes that will make you jump out of your seat, great chases, and high-level fights. These scenes you definitely have to appreciate in a movie theater. However, I did feel that the movie toned down the level of brutality a bit. I feel that the deaths are simpler and not as grotesque as in the 2015 film. But I think it's appropriate considering that this origin story focuses on a less broken and less brutal Furiosa. Also, this film strives to explain the character's reasons, so there's more drama involved. That's why they can't focus so much on the action, because they would lose the drama of the story. But there are still bloody scenes, like when Furiosa escapes by cutting off her arm, and we see the arm hanging without any censorship. The movie knows how to handle brutality, even though it lowers the level a bit, but it doesn't feel wrong. In that sense, the action in this film is well balanced with the drama, and it works. It's not the same as the 2015 film, but it works. Now let's go to my bad point about the film. I've called this point the lack of explanations. The movie is a prequel to the 2015 film, and it works to answer many questions about Furiosa's origin. Many of those answers do appear, but others remain unanswered or are insufficient. For example, the 2015 film suggests that Furiosa harbors a great resentment towards Immortan Joe. She really despises him and ultimately kills him in a brutal way. In this prequel, I would have liked to know where that hatred comes from, but the prequel doesn't give us an answer. Immortan Joe doesn't do anything in particular to Furiosa. The real villain in Furiosa's life is Dementis, who killed her mother and her love interest. This guy really deserves Furiosa's hatred, but Immortan Joe doesn't. At least in this movie, he didn't do anything to her. I feel like something was missing to tell us. I thought maybe Immortan Joe cut off Furiosa's arm, and that's why the resentment. But he didn't do that either. I really missed that answer since the relationship between the two is very important in the 2015 film. But it really seems that the biggest villain in Furiosa's life is Dementis, not Immortan Joe. Another unanswered question is the relationship between Furiosa and Immortan Joe's wives. In the 2015 film, she wants to rescue them to give them freedom. And she doesn't do this just to annoy Joe. No, Furiosa genuinely empathizes with these women, appreciates them, and is hurt when one of them dies. But in the new film, Furiosa doesn't talk to them at all. There's no connection, nor do they explain why she cares about them so much. The movie does explain Furiosa's desire to return home and protect life, but it doesn't explain why specifically she wants to do this with these women and not with other people under Immortan Joe's power. This could have been easily resolved. For example, they could have told us that Furiosa wasn't the only one who fell into Immortan Joe's hands, but some of her friends were also kidnapped, but she couldn't escape. They could have told us that this friend was forced to be one of Joe's wives and died years after that hell. That would serve as a perfect explanation for Furiosa's motivations. She would want to save these women in honor of her friend, whom she couldn't save. It would be a functional explanation, without damaging the canon of the previous film. I have another small bad point that I want to mention. The production decisions. There are a couple of things that bothered me a bit, and I can't overlook. The 2015 film impressed us with its realistic settings and practical effects. This decision gave the film an impeccable brutality. However, in the new 2024 prequel, they preferred to use a lot of CGI, and it's noticeable in many instances. Unfortunately, this production decision, in my opinion, took something very unique away from the franchise, and it saddens me a lot. This movie won't age as well as the 2015 one has. And I want to talk about another production decision that might seem silly to you, but it bothered me. I'm talking about Chris Hemsworth's design as the villain. His design is basically to leave him as he is, the actor, but with a horrible nose prosthetic on his face. This nose seriously bothered me throughout half of the movie. Unfortunately, I know the actor's face well because I've seen him for years in Marvel. That's why it was impossible for me to take him seriously with that gross prosthetic. I think they could have given him a much better design. If we compare it to Immortan Joe from the previous film, we'll realize that the design of this villain is brutal and has a bunch of incredible details. On the other hand, Thor is just a person with an ugly nose. Remember that episode of SpongeBob when Squidward is an art teacher? In that episode, Squidward put a nose like his on several works of art to fix them according to him. That's how I felt here. Chris Hemsworth is the same as always, but with an ugly nose. Maybe this bad point is ridiculous, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to mention it. In conclusion, Furiosa, the new Mad Max fame, is quite good. It has impressive action moments and gives us a valuable perspective on this character. Unfortunately, it ignores many important things that I, at least, expected to see in the prequel. But despite everything, it's a movie that I recommend. I hope you liked the video. If you did, you would help me a lot by leaving a like. That would be legendary. Also, remember to subscribe because I'll upload more videos of your favorite movies. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Charlie, and I'll see you in the future.